Welcome back to Waylander's Wandering. Today I'm going to be showing everybody how I chose to paint my Imperial Navy breeches for Kill Team Into the Dark. And start off with a coat of Blood Angels Red Contrast on all the red areas, which for me will be the jackets. When painting with contrasts, it's okay to use them straight from the pot, but it's something you need to keep an eye on, that we don't get too much pooling of paint in any one area. And to give a good effect, I like to start from what would be the top and the work to where the paint would naturally pull itself to. You only have a limited amount of time to work with these contrasts, so it's best to crack on. And if you do notice any pooling, like here, you can just go in with your brush, pick it up and redistribute it to another part of the miniature. Don't worry too much at this stage about getting paint on other areas, because we will be covering those with their own paints at a later date. So I will crack on with getting this done and come back to you when we're ready to add some more colour. Now that the red has been completed and I've put a second coat on, which you would have felt more observant of, you will have noticed, you will see we've got a nice deep, well covered red where the base coat is done, and the shadows in the folds and things of his tunic have been picked up quite nicely. Now, to start the highlights, what I'm going to do is a true dry brush, which is where I definitely try to get as much of the paint off the brush as possible, of my fist on red, just to start picking out those edge colours. So let's make a start on that. So we'll get a little Mephiston red on the brush, work it into a piece of kitchen towel, get as much of the paint off as we can so that we're just leaving a very light dusting, as you can see. And now we will come into the miniature and very gently brush across, leaving tiny little bits of paint on all those raised edges, where it will not leave anything in the depths of the miniature. I'll carry on with this across the entire miniature, being very careful not to get any into those recesses and depths. And I will get back to you when this has been dry brushed. Now that that first dry brush has brought out some of the highlights, I think it might be an idea to give him another going over with Evil Sun Scarlet and possibly even Trollslayer Orange, just to bring up those final edges to a nice bright colour. So I'll get on with that with exactly the same technique as you saw before with the Mephiston red. I'll get back to you in a second. Now that we've got that dry brush finished, and as you can see, it's picked up all the raised areas and given a nice cloth effect onto the tunic jacket there, it's time to start on the white areas, which for this model will be his belt, the carapace over his shoulders, the helmet, his leggings, and probably his gloves. So to do this, we will start off with Ulthuan Grey, which as you can see is more of an off-white than a grey. It has that blue touch, it's a blue tending grey, so we should get a nice effect when we come to put a highlight over the top, which actually brings up to white. So we'll get a little bit of this on my palette. That must be the first time I've opened that. There we go, and as you can see here, it's a little thick and gloopy. I'll add a little bit to the palette as our paint pot. Get a dab of water and just thin it down to a milky single cream style consistency. Now, because this is a layer paint, it will not cover entirely in one go, so we will end up having to put on 2 thin coats. Now, being careful not to get any of this grey onto the red, we'll cut in carefully all the places I've just discussed, making sure we get it nice. Forget to try and brace your hands so you're nice and steady. As you can see, I make a kind of a sort of triangle pyramid shape with my hands. And I will carry on with this and get back to you as soon as this is covered. With these white parts now nicely base coated with the Ulthuan Grey, it's time to go over the parts that are going to be a silvery metallic or black. So things like his weapon casing, that's going to be black. Just me, that's terrible. There we go, focus, baby. Come on, baby, focus. There we go. His air tanks will be the metallic colour, at least the top and bottom exposed parts there. We may do something else with this middle bit here. The actual cloth parts of his gloves, so the fingers, thumbs, palm of the hand where it's visible. Any of these pipes and things that you can see from his air supply and on his boots here, and the base of the sword on the wrists. So yeah, I will be doing the black first, for which I will be using Citadel Corvus Black, which is more of a very, very dark grey, but since we're going to be putting a dark shade over that, it doesn't matter. And then the silver parts will be Citadel Colour Lead Belcher, which is a nice dark metallic silvery colour that will represent steel quite well, and because of the darkness it'll look like an aged steel as well. So let's begin this. Give the paint a bit of a shake, and we will have a look at our Corvus Black, which is pretty good condition because I watered it down last time. And we will start on these black areas. Depending on coverage, it may need 2 thin coats. We will wait and see. And I will carry on with these dark areas while you go and have a cup of tea or sandwich. And I'll get back to you when they're all done. With all the black and silver metallic parts now painted, it's time to put a dark wash over all of the white, black and silver metallic places. As you will notice, I have actually already painted his eye lens in on his helmet because I think it'd be easier to touch up mistakes coming outwards than it will be to be super careful going in. To get this colour, I used Celestron Blue contrast paint from Citadel. There we go. And for the shade, I will be using Nuln Oil. This is an old pot, as you can probably tell, with very little left in there. So it's not one of the new ones, so it'll have the old saturation, which I'm hoping will work for this particular thing. So straight from the pot, I'll take it, and coming down carefully onto his boot, we will cover all of these areas, being careful about flooding. As you see, this not only darkens down the metallic, it darkens down the black quite nicely as well. So again, we come very gently across here, which will gather in the lower areas. Being quite careful that we don't get any on the red. Making sure that all the white parts get a little bit on, because we want the depth and the shadow. We don't want to be too dirty because where it'd flood, but we do want them maybe kinda grubby, because we don't know how long they've been working on the Gallo Dark. So just be nice and careful all around these silver areas, all the black areas and the silver metallic. So I'll finish painting this, get back to you when it's all done. With that wash layer defining all the recesses and shadows, it's now time to start to relayer and bring the colour back. So to do this, I will be relayering and highlighting the white areas using Citadel Corex White, highlighting the black areas using Mechanicus Standard Grey, which is a nice dark grey colour, and highlighting the metallic colours with Ironbreaker, which is again a fairly dark silver metallic, but should give the desired effect on those areas. So we'll start off with the Corex White, which is actually a slightly off-white, a very pale greyish colour. But because it's a layer paint, it's quite thin, so only with a touch of water just to smooth it out slightly. Now very carefully on just the raised areas like this, and this seam, and again on this raised area, we will be bringing the colour up. So again on the shoulder pads, just on that raised area, and again the next raised area across, and again here, in the raised areas until we have re-layered the entire miniature, highlighted the silver parts and the black parts. So I'll get on with this and I will bring it back in when it's all complete. With those parts highlighted, we're now on to the final stages where I will be using Citadel Rune Lord brass to do areas like the belt buckle, this thing on his chest, the Imperial Navy icon, the clips holding his boots to his trousers, and again gauntlets to the tunic, a little stud on his sword there, and on the back the icon here in the middle of his backpack, and these belt holders on the tunic. And quite frankly, anything else I see I think would look nice with a bit of the brass on it. Maybe these bits of piping on the carapace over his shoulders and the plastron over his chest. Maybe those, maybe not, but definitely, was it that little skull symbol on the back of his wrist, and this little aquila on his tunic. So, Waylander brass is a base paint, so will be relatively thick, and after a good old shake we'll see what the consistency is. It seems to be nice and smooth and not too heavy and thick. So let's begin applying this to the miniature, starting with the belt buckle. In case you were wondering what the other paint you can see in camera there is, that is Canoptic Alloy, again from Citadel, which where the area is large enough and I think it needs it, we'll be getting a highlight of the Canoptic Alloy on this Rune Lord brass, just to bring it up, make it look finished. So I will crack on with this and bring you guys back in when it's finished, and we can have a look at the completed miniature and see what we think about it. There we have our Imperial Navy Breacher Sergeant finished. I think with 100% hindsight I probably would have chosen a different colour for his belts and leggings rather than the white. So I think that's going to leave me with some issues when it comes to painting a few of the other chaps who don't have the frock coats on. I do like this colour combination. It's very reminiscent of Napoleonic era Royal Marines with a 40k twist. These techniques that I've used to complete this miniature should help you complete your own Imperial Navy miniatures for Kill Team Into the Dark. Feel free to use whatever colours you choose. I just like the Royal Marines look. All that remains for this chap is to finish his base, then everything's done. I hope you found this video useful. I'm happy you've stayed to the end. I love your faces. Goodbye.